Nature and purposes of reading. So let us tackle first the nature of reading. Upon understanding the nature of reading, let us understand first why reading or what is reading. What is reading? Reading is a dynamic process in which the reader interacts with a text to construct meaning. Inherent in constructing meaning is the reader's ability to activate prior knowledge, use reading strategies, and adapt to the reading situation. So let us focus in the word dynamic. What does dynamic mean? Dynamic means it's alive. So it's a process that is alive where the students interact with that or the readers interacts with the text to be able to get the meaning and inherent in that interaction. Through the text is the child's ability to activate prior knowledge and use different reading strategies and to adapt to the reading situation. Reading is as approach in a thinking process, one in which the student interacts with intellectual materials and sorts, evaluates and reacts to its organizations and content. Numerous strategies for perceiving patterns and structures within sentence are included. In addition, according to Noonan 2003, states reading is fluent process of reader's combination of word recognition, intellect, and emotion interrelated with prior knowledge to understand the message communicated. It means that the participants or the reader transfer meaning from the text and give assessment from the text to understand the message communicated. There are four major ways of alternative views about reading, in which reading is considered as a skill, as a process, as a comprehension, and reading as a development. Each view has its own chief characteristics which promoted a particular methodology. Being aware of what is involved in reading helps the teacher to teach reading effectively by providing the base for assessing and interpreting children's reading performances. First, we have reading as a skills. In this view of reading, reading is considered as a skill that is consciously learned. Not all human beings read or learn to read, and those who do learn vary considerably in their reading ability. So reading is not a natural language process which can be acquired without instruction. While the reader's knowledge of language's focus is an integral part of reading printed materials, reading is viewed as a complex unitary skill which is learned like other psychomotor skills, such as riding a bicycle. As an observable unitary skill, reading is defined as a level of proficiency in reading a text or components of a text with related identifiable subskills. Second, we have the reading as a process. Let us now consider the various aspects of considering reading as a process. All human beings learn to speak their mother tongue without direct instruction. Children produce and process language naturally. Some children even seem to learn to read naturally and they enter school with some knowledge of reading. The processing that occurs during reading is related to the general principle that underlie any form of human information processing. Viewing reading as a process emphasizes the way the reader uses syntactic redundancy to organize words into phrase, groups, and to predict incoming words. In addition, it uses the feedback of learning from the reader's memory. This feedback helps the reader to predict what is likely to occur next, as well as to integrate known information with the new incoming information. Third, we have the reading as comprehension. Human beings possess a complex system for perceiving, storing, and restructuring knowledge. They also have the capacity to make inferences, which enables them to relate information, think of new concepts, and restructure old concepts. All human beings store in a memory a large amount of information about the world. They draw on this store to help them in acquiring new meaningful information, drawing inferences, and constructing meaning out of bits of information. So when viewing reading as a comprehension, it is The activity of relating the knowledge the reader already possesses to the meaning in the text, assimilating it and then accommodating it with the existing knowledge. It is the activity of constructing and reconstructing meaning as the reader interacts with the information in the text before, during, and after reading. Lastly, we have the reading as a development. The developmental view of reading attempts to ensure that instructional goal match the child's patterns of reading. The level of instruction cannot be either too below or too facts about the stage of reading that a child has reached. If there is a big gap between the child's attainment in reading and the requirements for reading in the classroom, then motivation to read will be reduced and comprehension will be diminished. All children contribute to changes in their reading growth, but the rate of such changes and the manner in which they are integrated into patterns depend very much on the quality of instruction given by the teacher. Reading as a development shows purpose, and these purposes of reading of under the development is first to help indicate clearly the major sources of change in each dimension of reading that leads to new patterns of reading growth. Second, it marks the ability to read and comprehend complex reading material as well as manage a wider range of genres at a particular level of readability. Third, the typical pattern of growth serves as the basis for comparing the changes in the reading performance of individual regardless of which class they are in school. So now let's move to the purpose of reading. As we all know, there are so many purposes of reading. However, the purpose of reading for this activity is that reading varies depending on the reading materials, the textbooks, the assessments the teachers give to their students. The purpose of reading is to connect the ideas in the page to what you already know. If you don't know anything about a subject, then pouring words of text into your mind is like pouring water into your hand. So that would be all my part about our topic, the receptive macro skill reading. I may now call in the next reporter, who is Miss Berlin Soldahan, for the next topic.
Good day, everyone. I am Berlin Saldahan and I am here to discuss with you the reading comprehension and the sub-skills in reading. When we say reading comprehension, it is the process of understanding the meaning of the text and integrating it with the reader's existing knowledge. So if we would try to imagine reading without understanding anything from what you are reading, it would be worthless to even attempt to do so. You are like wasting your time and not gaining anything out of it, right? Thus, comprehending a text also means acquiring significant information from the reading material. Also, comprehension is the ultimate objective of reading. Indeed, because you will only be able to do other intended things to be done with the reading materials once you were able to comprehend what is written there. Next, we have two strategies for reading comprehension. What are they? So these are through creating diagrams and answering comprehensive questions. The former manifests its relevance in terms of reading comprehension because this will provide the students with a visual representations of the flow of, let's say, a short story. So in this case, they will be able to follow through the events in the story because there is a diagram which would help them to better understand what they just read. The latter pertains to the most common teaching approaches, which I believe we all have experienced in our years of learning. This is where the question and answer portion occurs. The teacher will ask several questions to the students based on the reading materials that they have read in order to see whether or not they have really understood the message of the text. Now let's move on to the sub-skills of reading. These skills that I am about to impart to you come from the concept of comprehending the text. So students are expected to recognize these sub-skills as they go through reading. First, identifying author's mood and purpose. This particular sub-skill can be determined by looking at the author's choice of words or diction. So the students are able to identify the purpose of the text when they fully understand its content. Second, we have identifying main ideas. So spotting the main ideas can be drawn from the facts, reasons, or examples from the reading material. Usually these can sometimes be found at the beginning of the paragraph or possibly at the end. But the main ideas can also be vaguely implied, which makes it difficult to identify. Next, context clues. These are the ideas circulating in unfamiliar word. By analyzing the context clues from the certain parts of the text that contains with not previously recognized words by the readers, it can help the students make sense of the message it is conveying because they get to critically understand what this word could mean using those surrounding information. We also have here analysis. So this requires to break down the concepts of the text and structure to fully understand that this could mean drawing conclusion about the entirety of the text. Another is evaluation. It focuses on the ideas and information in the text and consider the relation to one's own opinion. Here, the students have to relate their personal perspectives about the topic at hand and try to compare it based on how they interpret the reading material. Lastly, we have recognizing and assigning meaning to words. This sub-skill includes recognizing the sight words, interpretation of the context clues, use of phonics, and structural analysis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jimeline Grace Marian, and for the continuation of our discussion, let's move on to the reading strategies and techniques. So, reading strategies and techniques can help students to become excellent readers during any school year level. Through active reading and other methods, kids can increase their vocabulary and proficiency. Reading techniques benefits struggling students and offer them constructive ways to get a better grasp on learning how to read. The first reading techniques is the SQ3R. These reading techniques involve five different steps, each one with the goal to get you closer to full comprehension of the text. The first one is survey. You have to survey the piece to get a quick idea of the content and structure of the reading. By doing this, you are preparing your mind. Another one is question. You have to prepare questions for yourself to go over as you read the material. One trick on how to create questions is to turn paragraph titles into questions. For instance, a title such as Women in the Civil War could turn into the questions: who were the women in the Civil War and what did they do and when? Next is read. You have to read with your questions in mind. In this step, you can combine other reading techniques that may work for you, such as scanning or active reading. Another one is recite. Now it is time to go back and answer those questions you created, and you have to make sure what you read makes sense and that you understand how it answers your questions. The last one is review. Make mental notes or say aloud what you have learned. Try doing this without looking at your notes or the text to check what you have or have not retained. The second reading technique is skimming. It is a reading technique where you can glance over the material to find what you are looking for. This is the best use when you already know the general idea of the text. You can also skim materials before going for further reading. Getting a first glance of how a chapter or article is laid out, for example, will help you to know where to look for key information in the second read. You can use skimming for reading service or product reviews, going over a speech last minute, quick research, and quick review before an exam. Skimming can save you a lot of time by making you aware of the key points without fully comprehending the entire text. It will also save you time if you need to reread the material more in depth at the later time. The next reading technique is scanning. It is used when simply running your eyes over a text, usually to find what you are looking for or to find anything that pops out at you. This is commonly used reading techniques for daily and non-academic reading tasks. For instance, list of email subjects, news articles, and a food or a drink menu. Number 4 is active reading. Active reading gives you so much more in-depth understanding of the text in front of you. This reading method should be used when you are reading something complex or something that you need to think critically about. In order to read actively, you must ask yourself questions throughout the text and reflect on those questions. You have also to try to relate what you are reading to previous experiences and knowledge. You can read actively with you difficult and unfamiliar materials and reading materials that you will need to know well. Number 5 reading techniques is detailed reading. Detailed reading is the most labor intensive and time consuming reading technique. Readers carefully read, consume, and analyze each word for meaning, piecing together the meanings of words in a sentence to provide a deeper understanding can take time and patience, but in some cases, this is the best techniques to use. You can use these methods with scholarly research articles, medical reports, and literature. Okay, let's move on to the strategies. First is find your reading corner. The right reading environment should fit with your learning style. You have to consider the right spots, the atmosphere, the distractions, locations, and schedules to increase your focus and concentrations in reading. The second one is review the text. Survey the material and ask some questions before you start reading. For instance, you have to ask what's the topic is all about and what do you already know about the text and what can you learn from the text from any table of contents, glossary and or introduction. 3 is use smart starting strategies. When you start reading, don't let the text overwhelm you. Use these strategies to keep your reading assignments under control. The first is you have to break up the reading. And the second one is pace yourself. Dense materials such as in textbooks, if there are texts that hard to read, manage your time well and schedule regular breaks. And the last one is you have also to check for understanding. As you read, occasionally ask yourself if you understand what is being communicated in the text. If not, you have or you may need to go back and reread a paragraph or a sections again. Number 4 is highlight or annotate the text. You have to watch for important terms, definitions, facts, and phrases and highlight them or add annotations within the document. Number 5, take notes on main points. This is different from highlighting because you can take your own notes separately. And here are a few note-taking strategies. First is have your own style. You can try bullet points, mind mapping, outlines, or whatever methods that works for you. Next is turn subtitles into question. By making a sections header into questions that can help you to find the answers. And summarize as you read. After reading the paragraph, write a sentence to summarize the paragraph main points. Number 6 is write questions as you read. Asking questions can help your comprehension. The tactics also work when reading. You can ask a questions in your notes. For instance, what, when, where, and how, and then look for the answers as you continue. This will help you understand what you are being read. Number seven is look up words you don't know. Don't let unfamiliar words drill you. Look them up in a dictionary before you go any further. It can be hard to recover if you miss the main point because of new words that unfamiliar with you. So you may want to bookmark on online dictionary like Merriam-Webster, so you can easily find the word definitions. Number eight is you have to make connections. Look for links and connections between the text and your experiences, thoughts, ideas in other texts. Number nine, you also have to review and summarize. After you finish reading, summarize the text in your own words. This will help you to understand main ideas and take better notes. If you don't understand what you have read, you can reread it carefully. And the last one is discuss what you've read. You can describe what you have learned to someone else. Um, just like you can talk to your professor or another classmates, or you can join discussions groups with your friends, just like sharing ideas. You can share your ideas about how you understand that particular text, and you can also learn from them. This will move the informations or the content from short-term to long-term memories.
Okay, let's proceed to approaches in teaching reading. The bottom up, the top down, and the interactive. Teaching reading is a complex process that requires different approaches. So let's begin with bottom up approach. This approach emphasizes direct instruction and phonics instruction to promote reading growth. In order to build on the structure of language, students are taught very specific skills such as decoding words, word parts, and sounds. The bottom-up approach starts with teaching phonics and decoding skills. Students learn to recognize individual sounds and letters and then combine them to form words. This approach is useful for beginning readers who need to build a strong foundation in decoding. However, it can be limiting as it does not emphasize the importance of text and prior knowledge. This approach is mostly used in lower elementary grades where the emphasis is on letter shapes and sounds. After one has comfortably reached proficiency in phonics, they are moved to learning sentence structures and so on until they are able to read and comprehend more intricate piece of writing. This model of reading instruction is sometimes referred to as a part to whole method because it focuses on the parts of words and works up to a whole language comprehension goal. Next will be the top-down approach. The emphasis in this approach is on whole language learning through literary exploration. Instructors who believe that students learn best by doing use this approach. This is because by exposing learners to a variety of literature, they will gain the skills to be successful lifelong readers. The assumption in this approach is that each student has a wealth of interest and background knowledge that can be used to decode the language of a particular piece of writing. When a learner builds on prior knowledge of a subject matter, they can infer or use the context of a piece to help them overcome the more challenging aspects. The top down approach begins with the big picture. Students use their prior knowledge and context to understand the overall meaning of the text. They then use this understanding to make predictions and infer meaning. This approach is useful for more advanced readers who have strong foundation in decoding. However, it can be challenging for struggling reader who may not have necessary prior knowledge. In this approach, the reader is responsible for comprehension. This is because the reader uses background knowledge, expectations, assumptions, and questions, and engages in pre reading strategies such as previewing the text, predicting, activating background knowledge. Lastly, the interactive approach. This is the most common approach in modern reading instruction, and the interactive approach is thought to be the most thorough description of reading process. Interactive approach to reading combines elements of both bottom-up and top-down reading processes, and it will be done simultaneously. For example, a reader may begin reading a text using top-down strategies to comprehend the text, and then shift to bottom-up strategies when he or she encounters an unfamiliar word. The reader then uses bottom-up strategies to decode the new word before moving on. Teachers who use this approach understand the importance of building foundational skills from the bottom up, while also appreciating the relevance of reading interest and personal choice in considering literature. The interactive approach combines both approaches to create a more balanced approaches to teaching reading. Students learn to use decoding skills and context to comprehend the text. They also use their prior knowledge to make predictions and inferences. This approach is useful for all students regardless of their reading level. It creates a more engaging and meaningful reading experiences, which can definitely lead to improve reading comprehension. That's all.
Goodell's reading skills and stages of reading. First, let us know what is reading ladder. The reading ladder is the steps of reading progress starting from easy moving to progressively difficult. Reading ladder is an invaluable strategy to help children develop critical thinking skills. How many books have you read? What are those books? What makes reading difficult for you right now? And what will you work to improve? The goal of reading ladders, writes Terry Lesisne, is to slowly move students from where they are to where we would like them to be. Why reading is important to your child. Reading is important to a child since it builds vocabulary and reasoning, helps children understand cultures, and put them in the frame of the storyteller, allowing them to question and experience emotions and scenarios. Reading improves social skills and creative thinking, leading to confidence. According to Grace Goodall, these are the steps to work on. Sight words. Sight words are fundamental for reading and may be easily memorized. They are taught in the first and second grades. Dr. Edward, an educator who developed the Dolch words or basic words, Dolch words 220 most frequently found words in the book that children read. So, kaninyo makita dira mo na siyang Dolch words. Phonetic analysis is based on the traditional classification of speech sounds using the International Phonetic Alphabet. Phonetic analysis, also called phonics, is a study of sound symbol or phoneme grapheme relationships. This is sounds out larger words by breaking them down into vowel consonant combination groups. Using structural analysis, this is breaking down parts of the word to understand what an unknown word means. Example, bicyclist. Bi prefix means to. Cycle root word meaning wheel. Ist noun suffix meaning a person who. Next is using contextual clues, hints that the author gives to help define a difficult or unusual word. The clue may appear within the same sentence as the word to which it refers, or it may be in a preceding or subsequent sentence. To help them understand unfamiliar terms, children might use words they already know. There are types of contextual clues. Synonym, word with the same meaning, is used in the sentence. Example, Bell felt remorse or shame for his harsh words. Antonym, word or group of words that has the opposite meaning reveals the meaning of an unknown word, unknown term. Example, Bomyu is gregarious, not like his members who is quiet and shy. Explanation. The unknown word is explained within the sentence or in a sentence immediately preceding. Example, something's in the refrigerator has putrid odor. The smell was rotten where we opened the door. Examples. Specific examples are used to define the term. Example, celestial bodies such as the sun, moon, and stars are governed by predictable laws. Vocabulary building. According to language expert W.B. Alley, a rich vocabulary is a valuable asset and an important attribute of success in any walk of life. In other words, your vocabulary plays a large role in determining if you will succeed in life or not. It is crucial to provide our children access to a dictionary at a young age because our vocabulary is necessary for comprehension and successful communication. There are 7 steps of building vocabulary. Step 1, read, read, read. The more reading you do, the faster you will reach your goal of building your vocabulary. You can read books or websites on how to build vocabulary. Each time you run into a new word while reading, remember to write it down so you can learn its meaning later. Step 2, repeat words. Repeat words several times. Saying a word several times a day for many days is surefire way of making you remember it. Step 3, look at words within the mind of a child. Young children learn words very quickly. Children under 10 years can actually learn more words in 1 week than the typical adult can learn in 1 year. Find out how you can approach vocabulary building like a child. Step 4, have fun by playing word games. The next time you hang around with your family, instead of just sitting on the couch and watching TV, invite them to play word games. This is a great tool for building your vocabulary and it's loads of fun as well. Step 5, make it personal. Making words personally meaningful to you will make them stand out and you will retain them better. Step 6, use your imagination to create images of the word. This technique is used most often for concrete rather than abstract objects. Just use your imagination to create a corresponding image for the words that you are studying. Step 7, practice using elaboration. Elaboration is a technique a lot of people use to remember words. It involves expounding on a word's meaning to remember it better. So now let us continue. So the next is finding the main idea. The main idea sentence of a paragraph tells what the paragraph is about. Children can construct an idea and determine plot's direction by analyzing the keywords in a sentence. A book's illustration can aid in locating its major concept, and there are 3 types of paragraphs: introductory paragraphs, transitional paragraphs, and summarizing paragraphs. Introductory paragraphs outline the main ideas and of a chapter or section, the extent of coverage, and the writer's attitude towards the topic. Transitional paragraphs summarize what has been read and prepare the reader for a new concept. Summarizing, conclusion based on evidence, are drawn in summary paragraphs, which highlights the important points of a chapter or section. Finding the supporting details. Mm, Details, major and minor, support the main idea by telling how, what, when, where, why, how much, or how many. After finding the main ideas, it will be easier to fill in the gaps. Word webs can help your child connect ideas also. So, interfering meanings, drawing conclusions. The meaning of a word can be implied by the general context. By giving your child enough information, they can then come up with their ideas and conclusions. Drawing conclusions refers to information that is implied or inferred. This means that the information is never clearly stated. Inference is just a big word that means a conclusion or judgment. If you infer that something has happened, you do not see, hear, feel, smell, or taste the actual event, but from what you know, it makes sense to think that it has happened. Classifying and organizing facts. Classifying is separating various things on the basis of some criteria. Organizing facts are how to classify the facts and how to use the classification to arrange those facts in a particular rational order. This is separating information or regrouping them and then deciding how to organize and use them. Using parts of the book. Title page. It is the information about when and where the book was published. It will give you the name of the author. It will tell you the copyright date or the date of the book was written or published. Table of contents. Mm, it will help you to find the names of the chapters and of the book, chapters of the book, and the page number where each chapter begins. Each chapter of the book will have a name and usually has chapter number. Glossary of a book. It will give meanings to words used in the book. Vocabulary words or new words in the book will be here. The glossary can help you to understand your reading and will make it easier for you to learn and study the information. Index of a book. It is very valuable to learners. You will find a listing of each topic in the book, names of people, maps in the book, or any other information in the book listed here. This listing will be in alphabetical order and will have the page number in the book where you can find the information you are looking for. This is very helpful to learners. Using the dictionary. It is called a word reference, word book, lexicon, or vocabulary. It is a collection of words in one or more specific languages, often listed alphabetically or by radical and stroke of ideographic language. With usage information, definitions, etymologies, phonetics, pronunciations, and other informations, or a book of words in one language with their equivalent in another, also known as lexicon, using the encyclopedias and other reference book. Encyclopedias are sets of books with a vast range of subjects, typically arranged alphabetically. Borrowing library books for research and enjoyment. Um, give the most importance of reading in the library, not only for academic use but also for enjoyment, because there are sections of a library where you can find books that are entertaining but still educational books intended for the needs and wants of the students. Aside from that, each it teach aside from it teach the pupils or students on how to borrow books and other reference from the library through the use of library cards and with the aid of author's card, title card, and subject card in order to ask for the right book or books from the librarian. Starting your private library collection, reading of books and other reference will encourage children to create and start a mini library of collection of books from his or her past years in learning and also other references that he or she is reading. It will also encourage them to read more as well as his or her siblings and parents at home. The family that reads together stays together. Exposure to reading from mass media. This opens your child's mind to real-time matters and allows them a much deeper understanding of today's world. Forms of mass media: broadcast, film, video games, audio recording and reproduction, internet, blogs, RSS feeds. podcasts, mobile, and print media, book, magazine, newspaper. Reading from the internet. Reading from the internet is the most and easiest way not only for the children, but also to the adults to gather information from a certain topic, but always teach children to examine if the article or information that they are reading is based on facts or not. Try to teach also the do's and don'ts in using the internet. Only view and serve educational sites and not the sites that is not suitable for their ages. Teach kids how to use the internet responsibly and only visit educational websites that are appropriate for their age group. So that is all about Goodell's reading skills ladder. So murag taas-taas gid ang ladder no. Kapoy sakat or kapoy paminaw sa kataas. Huh. Anyways, we are now down to the stages of reading. Children go through four distinct stages of reading development: emergent, early, transitional, and fluent readers. Emergent reader. Emergent readers are children who are just stepping into the world of reading. For this stage, they need a solid foundation with phonics, the sounds each letter makes, and then they can practice with instructional reader, pamphlets or phonics, books in addition to practice with sight words, among other skills. Early reader. Early readers are that are newly able to read simple text on their own with little no to help. These readers are often slim books that are very short and simple. Nonetheless, you can definitely find some really entertaining early readers if you look hard enough, such as Elephant and Piggy series. A lot of publishers have their own system of leveling the readers from more basic to more advanced to help you know which books to select for your children. Next is transitional reader. Beginning or easy chapter books are the connection between leveled readers and regular chapter books and are geared towards children ages 5 to 8. They typically has illustrations, short chapters and plot and are often spaced out with extra room between lines and larger fonts. There is a range of series from Mercy Watson to Nancy Drew, and each children learns to read at their own pace, and there is a lot of reading development that occurs in just those few years. So, next is fluent readers. So, this is the goal. A fluent reader is one that is finally able to read to learn as opposed to spending their effort learning to read or just simply read for the sheer pleasure and entertainment of it. They can read independently and have the skills necessary for decoding new words and constantly expanding their vocabulary. This stage starts in the book world with middle grade chapter books, then moves on to young adult novels, which are followed by adult novels. It is also where some serious bookworm fun can begin.
Hello mga langga, I am Kuya Ranel, and today let's discuss the reading program and a good reader. So, reading program is a program designed to teach literacy skills. And now, let's discuss the Comprehensive Core Reading Program. The Comprehensive Core Reading Program is the primary instructional tool that teachers use to implement effective reading instructions. Now, how does Comprehensive Core Reading Program works? First, it organizes the scope of lessons in which specific skills are taught. Second is, it creates consistency across classrooms, grade levels, schools, and districts. Third, it provides research-validated materials and strategies for meeting diverse students' needs. Fourth is, it builds curricula and instructional practices that support students' initial learning as well as the transfer of knowledge and skills to other contexts. And lastly, it reflects state standards which identify benchmarks and target instruction at its grade level. So, let's continue our discussion with the five components to a comprehensive reading program. Number one component is the phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds or the phonemes in spoken words. Number two is the phonics. Phonics is a method for teaching people how to read and write an alphabetic language. It is done by demonstrating the relationship between the sounds of the spoken language and the letters or groups of letters or syllables of the written language. Number three is vocabulary, the body of words used in a particular language. Number four is fluency. Fluency, or also called as volubility or eloquency, refers to continuity, smoothness, rate, and effort in speech production. It is also used to characterize language production, language ability, or language proficiency. And last is the comprehension, the action or capability to understand something. Now, let's proceed our discussion to an 8 popular reading program. So the number one popular reading program is the Wilson language. Wilson is a provider of a research-based reading and spelling programs for all ages, and these have been proven highly effective. Number two is the Orton-Gillingham. The Orton-Gillingham approach is a direct, exposite, multisensory, structured, sequential, diagnostic, and prescriptive way to teach literacy when reading, writing, and spelling does not come easily to individuals such as those with dyslexia. Number three is Red 180. Red 180 is the leading blended learning intervention program building a reading comprehension, academic vocabulary, and writing skills for struggling students, especially in grades 4 and up. Number four is SRA. It is reading laboratory programs work by color coding portions of reading materials according to the reading ability level required. Number five is the Barton Reading and Spelling System. It is a great tutoring system for children, teenagers, or adults who struggle with spelling, reading, and writing due to the selection or learning disabilities. Number six is Read Naturally. The Read Naturally strategy combines the three powerful research approving reading intervention strategies to create an effective tool that individualizes instruction and improves reading proficiency. Five components to a comprehensive reading program. Number seven is Lenda Mood Bell. Lenda Mood Bell programs focus on the sensory cognitive processing necessary for reading and comprehension. And the last one is the LLI, also known as the Fountas and Penal Leveled literacy intervention provides effective small group instruction for students who find reading and writing difficult. So mga langga, let's move on to our next topic, the good reader. If you are that person who loves to read books or who loves to spend time on reading, well, listen closely because maybe or perhaps you are that person who is good in reading. So let's start. So, good reader. So what is a good reader? Good readers figure out what difficult words mean by looking for the whole meaning instead of just looking at individual letters or words. And to add, good readers are selectively as they read, they are likely to focus more of other attention on the parts of the text that are most closely tied to their reading goals. And lastly, good readers may decide to skip some parts of a text because they already understand the content or because they do not think the parts are important to what they need to learn. The qualities of a good reader. So accordingly, good readers love reading and they enjoy reading, of course. Second is they maintain appropriate postures. And of course, they do not move their neck, their eyes, or tongue unnecessarily. And next one is they do not point out printed words with a finger or pencil and pen. And of course, they do not repeat a line nor they go back to what they have already read. And of course, they do not read by word, but in a sense of group. Now let's continue to a characteristics of a good reader. So accordingly, a good reader summarize as they read. And of course, they make and revise predictions as they read. A good reader also make inferences as they read. They also ask questions and visualize as they read. They also synthesize and make connections. And of course, they determine important ideas as they read.
Good day, everyone. I am Jeremy P. Verdida and I am here to report about the lesson design for teaching reading. First, be able to read for gist. Number 2, be able to read for detailed information. Number 3, be able to preview or survey a text. Number 4, be able to use prior knowledge to understand a text. Number 5, be able to locate reference. Number 6, be able to infer meaning from context. Number 7, be able to summarize a passage. Number 8, be able to speed read. Number 9, be able to think critically. The teaching design should guide students to employ critical reading skills to help students reach a deep and comprehensive understanding of the text, and their critical thinking will be trained and developed in the process of a long-term practice. And the second lesson design that I'm gonna discuss is about preparation. To prepare learners for the reading task, start with a warm-up such as a tongue twister, a command drill, or a riddle. This shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 minutes. This stage is intended to prepare the learners for the reading tasks. In other words, a lead-in. Examples of a lead-in includes vocabulary pre-teaching, discussing a quote related to the topic, a word list that the students have to study in groups to guess which words will be used by the writer in the text, and etc. Think of a task that will help the students read and understand the text. Make important connections, activate prior knowledge, and implant schema, ideas and concepts students need to know before reading. If the students will be reading about life cycles, for example, he will ask the student what they know about how animals live and die. Engaging the students in using what they know about the topic is an important aspect for the educator to relay more information of the topic and for the students to have a grasp on the lesson. Next is strategy, teaching, and modeling. Depending on the aims of the lesson, choose a strategy example activating prior knowledge, predicting, guessing the meaning of difficult words from the context, questioning, summarizing, using graphic organizers, and teach it explicitly using another short text just to demonstrate how the strategy should be used. Set a purpose for the reading, such as inferring, reading for the content knowledge, or making mental images. All good readers have a reason to read. The next lesson design that I will discuss is about strategy use and practice. Learners have to use the strategy you explained in the previous stage. They have to apply it to understand the current text. Comprehension tasks. For a deeper understanding of the text, assign comprehension exercises such as finding an appropriate title for the text, locating references, sentence completion, matching, comprehension questions, and true or false statements. The purpose and practice of reading is to correlate the ideas on the text to what you have already known. The students must understand about the subject that he or she read to connect the ideas. When you read, you exercise your comprehension abilities and your analytical abilities. It fires up your imagination and stimulates the memory centers of your mind. It helps recall information as well as stabilize your emotion. The next lesson design would be reviewing. Reviewing consists of checking to what extent the learners understood the text and how much they recall. This can be done in different ways, such as number 1, retelling the story, number 2, writing a short paragraph using the ideas they got from the text, using graphic organizers to organize what they have learned from the text, number 4, completing a chart with the most pertinent information from the passage. Last would be the summarizing the text. The review is a focused and purposeful inquiry to observable individual and group behaviors in specific class to help both instructors and observers to see teaching and learning from different perspectives. Commit to being present for at least one class period in order for the instructor to get a rhythm and display typical teaching behaviors. As the observer, you have an opportunity to learn and gather strategies that you can try in your own class. The last lesson design that I would be discussing is connecting. Connecting. Learners have to connect what they have read with themselves, with the world, and with other related texts they have read. Teachers in this stage typically try to answer the following questions. First, reading is purposeful. Second, choose appropriate text. Third, vocabulary knowledge facilitates comprehension. Fourth, option for activities that focus on skill integration. Fifth, knowledge of text type and format is important. Sixth, explicitly teach and model reading strategies. Seventh, reading activities start from general to specific. The last one would be devise a well-structured lesson plan. Making connections is a reading comprehension strategy that involves linking what is being read, the text, to what is already known schema or background knowledge. The strategy promotes engaging while reading and, in turn, a deep understanding of the text.
And I'm back to share with you the materials and resources in teaching reading. So, as a teacher who wishes to encourage the learners to become wide readers, you must know what types of resources and reading materials you should be integrating in your teaching methodologies. Also, when we think about reading, the first thing that comes in mind would be books, which is correct. Books are excellent examples of reading materials, and these are the most common and adequate sources of information. However, teachers can incorporate a wide variety of reading materials aside from books to encourage the students to become active readers and enhance their comprehension skills. Here are some of the reading materials that you can use in teaching reading. First, we have comics. Comics are or comic books are a great way to teach students to understand the dialogue. These are one form of reading materials which are beneficial for students who are not used to reading long stories, that filled every page with text. These are a great way to help them love reading, especially when they are still learning to getting used with the idea of reading. Next is poetry. Poetry exposes students with a proper intonation, pitch, volume, and inflection when reading. Reading poetry can also help expand students' vocabulary. So it is absolutely a good idea to try to introduce the presence of poetry in teaching reading. They will learn to appreciate the beauty of poetry in a unique way as it serves a different purpose in terms of enhancing the reading skills. Poetry can help them realize that words can also be used for aesthetics, not just for formal writing purposes. We also make use of the newspaper. The habit of reading newspaper increases the chances of better reading. It will widen the learner's knowledge and alter their outlook in life in a meaningful way. We can also use magazine. This will expose the students to different texts that could encourage them to read and interact with engaging content. Allowing them to venture in reading magazine would probably serve as an evaluation to which types of reading materials they find suitable in terms of individual learning needs. Perhaps other students find it fun and enjoyable to read the content of a magazine more than any other reading materials. So other reading materials could also be in the form of manuscripts, manuals, encyclopedias, dictionaries, and other possible stuff that the teacher can be used in teaching reading. Now let's dive right into the resources in teaching reading. So these resources will significantly help the teachers in terms of designing their activities, particularly for reading. And I have here three resources. So first is the Reading Rockets. This is a website that offers a great help for teachers, specifically in designing a reading lesson. It is one of the useful resources as it provides teachers with video clips containing the relevance of reading instruction. Second, we have Scholastic. It provides wealth of information for teachers to improve students' reading levels. It has resources and tools to assist teachers in improving the learners' reading skills. Just like the first resource in teaching reading, Scholastic can also be a huge advantage to be considered because it aims to equip teachers with the necessary reading techniques that they could possibly integrate in their reading sessions. And last but not the least resource in the teaching reading is what we call the Read Big. It is a resource that teachers can use to improve classroom lessons, gain ideas, and discover new stories for students to explore. It allows teachers to discuss different stories with others and gain new insights into classic tales. The Read Big plays an important role in classifying or selecting the most appropriate stories that the students would find interesting to read. And that's all for this topic. Thank you so much.
So hello everyone, this is me again, Ranel, and at this moment I'll be discussing another topic. So the topic that I'll be discussing today is about the performance and observation-based assessment in teaching reading. So when we say performance, the word that comes first is the action or process of carrying out or accomplishing an action, task, or function, while observation is the action or process of observing something or someone carefully or in order to gain information. So if that two will be combined, what does performance observation means? So that means that it is a data collection method that relies on examining how actions are initiated and completed by subjects in the relevant environment. So let's continue and discuss about reading assessment. So reading assessment can be a useful part of a reading program as long as their aim is to help students become fluent readers who understand what they read. Reading assessments are the tools and methods used by educators to improve student learning. Administering a variety of assessments is an integral part of instruction and allows teachers to take an active role in making decisions about the goals of instruction and the content of learning. So, to continue, these are the list of most effective comprehension strategies to help students learn while reading. So the first one is to know how much they can comprehend. The second one is to use graphic organizer. The third one is to answer question. The fourth one is to ask question, and the last one is to recognize story structure. So first one is to know how much they can comprehend. So accordingly, comprehension is the understanding and interpretation of what is read. To be able to accurately understand written material, children need to be able to, first, decode what they read. Second is to make connections between what they read and what they already know. And the last one, to think deeply about what they have read. Students need to monitor their own comprehension when they complete activities and reread previously read text, but which are shown to them in an incomplete format. The next one is the use of graphic organizer. At the sentence level, students are regularly asked to recreate sentences that have become muddled, putting them in order to make the text meaningful and logical. The next one is to answer question. At the text level, students need to answer questions about text in order to learn more about what they have learned. And of course, lastly, to recognize the story structure. Accordingly, students learn about story structure by completing the sequencing activities and being able to reorder stories into their correct orders. And finally, we are now down to our last topic. So the last topic is about the three major types of assessment, and these are the diagnostic, summative, and the formative assessment. So the first one is the diagnostic assessment. It is used to measure the student's current knowledge and skills and can be used to identify a suitable program of learning. And the next one is the summative assessment. This assessment occur after instructions and assessment of learnings, while the last one is the formative assessment. This assessment occurred during instruction and assessment for learning.
Here I am again, so let's proceed to feedbacking in assessing reading. But before that, what is feedback in teaching? Feedback in teaching refers to the process of providing information to students about their performance and progress in order to help them improve. It is an essential part of the learning process as it allows students to understand where they are succeeding and where they need to focus their efforts. Feedback can take many forms, including written comments, verbal feedback, and praise. Effective feedback is timely, specific, and actionable, providing students with clear guidance on how to improve their work. It is an important tool for teachers to help their students achieve their full potential. What is the importance of feedback in teaching reading? Feedback is crucial in teaching reading. It helps students understand their strengths and weaknesses and provide guidance on how to improve. Without feedback, students may continue to make the same mistake and struggle to progress. Effective feedback should be specific, timely, and focus on the task at hand. It should also be delivered in constructive and supportive manner, encouraging students to continue learning and growing. In short, feedback is an essential tool for both teachers and students in the process of teaching and learning reading. So again, let's talk about feedbacking and assessing reading. Feedbacking and assessing reading is an essential aspect of the learning process. It helps students to understand their strengths and weaknesses and to improve their reading skills. However, feedback must be specific, timely, and actionable to be effective. Let's proceed to specific feedback. Specific feedback is essential because it provides students with clear information about what they need to do to improve their reading skills. For example, telling students they need to work on their comprehension. It and as you can hear, it is not specific enough. Instead, feedback should be targeted towards a specific area of weakness, such as you need to work on identifying the main idea of the text. Next is timely. Timely feedback is also crucial because it allows students to make immediate improvements. Waiting too long to provide feedback can result in missed opportunities for growth and also improvement. Providing feedback as soon as possible after an assessment allows students to reflect on their performance and make changes to their reading strategies. Finally, actionable feedback. Actionable feedback is essential because it provides students with clear steps that they can take to improve their reading skills. For example, providing a student with a list of strategies they can use to improve their comprehension is much more helpful than simply telling them they need to improve their comprehension. In conclusion, feedback in assessing reading must be specific, timely, and actionable to be effective. By providing students with targeted feedback that is delivered in timely manner and includes actionable steps, educators can help students to improve their reading skills and achieve academic success. That's all.